Get set here, and we'll get ready to go. Welcome to Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Original Podcast, the live post-game reaction show. I'm Scott Gulbransen, your host, joined as always by my good friend Murf from Raiders Fan Radio. We're here to talk about the Raiders' 16-12 win over the New York Jets. The Raiders now 500, folks, 5-5. They have now won 2 in a row under interim head coach Antonio Pierce. I know a lot of you out there were doing the old Fred Sanford heart attack. You know, it was a crazy ending. It looked like the Raiders had it wrapped up after Robert Spillane's big interception, the first Raiders takeaway of the game. And then, of course, they had to get the ball back to the Jets, and the Jets heaved one in the end zone and played good defense, but also got a little bit lucky there. The ball hit off a couple Jets, and it was close. But no matter how you look at it, it was a win. And again, Raiders 5-5. Who would have thought, after all of the just ridiculousness with former coach Josh McDaniels, all the things that we had seen over the course of this season, to see the Raiders now win 2 in a row. Gets harder after this. Let's face it. Got to play the Dolphins and the Chiefs in consecutive weeks, but it's a 1 week at a time league, so you got to be ready for that. And appreciate everybody being with us. If you're live with us on late Sunday night, East Coast time, going to be morning pretty soon here. Thanks for being with us. I see the chat going crazy again on YouTube, so thank you for that. If you're listening to us on Monday morning on the audio version, thanks for being with us. I hope you woke up happy in your silver and black, after your silver and black dreams, right? All the good stuff. But anyway, we're going to get right into it now as I welcome in Murf. And Murf, this one, boy, we knew, and Mo and I talked about it. I know you guys talked about it on your show as well, which was this was going to be a slugfest. This was going to be a low-scoring affair. Both teams run the ball pretty well, although they didn't really get it going until the second half. Both teams have played better defense recently. I mean, the Raiders over the last 4 games, we talked about it the last couple of weeks, have just been doing great on defense. And then, of course, the Jets have one of the best defenses in the National Football League, including one of the fastest defenses. And so it kind of went how we thought it would go. Some interesting twists and turns along the way. But let's get right into the voice of the fan and give us your feeling from this game and sort of the ups and downs. It was truly a roller coaster ride. But tell me, what do you take away from this, man? I mean, 5 wins already. I picked the Raiders to win 7, so I'm looking like I could be wrong. Again, road gets tougher, but you make it, the team just starts believing in itself, and Antonio Pierce has had that reaction here, and they just did what they had to do to win this game.
Yeah, way to grind it out, Raiders, man. Way to battle, and you know, listen, you don't have to win pretty, you just got to win. And so for the Raiders to freaking pull it out the way that they did, you know, last week, Scott, we had the absolute privilege of meeting a lot of legendary Raiders, including Hall of Famer Mike Haynes. Was the first time I ever had a chance to meet Mike, and I was so starstruck by him. And I asked Valerie afterwards. I said, "Baby, can we have a kid so we can name him Mike Haynes Murphy?" Well, after tonight, I'm ready to name him Bob Spillane Murphy. Let's go, man. Way to go, Bobby Mickey Spillane, to freaking close out the game and shout him out and his beautiful bride. And congratulations on your firstborn on the way. Like, what an amazing day for that young man. And yeah, listen, Raider Nation, and I can't wait to go back and read the chat. And I always love to go back and read it. I can't see your all's reaction, but if you're anything like me, man, you're pacing around the house. It's just me and the dog is like, what's up with all the yelling? I'm out of breath. It just, what an absolute insane fourth quarter that was. But listen, man, great players aren't always great, but they're always great when they have to be. And we had some of these current crop of Raiders were great when they absolutely had to be, when the game was on the line, despite the mistakes that were made earlier on in the game, despite even some of the, I don't want to call them mistakes, but let's just call them misses on some of the play calling. I wasn't in love with some of the play calling on third down, especially when we had a chance to kick that field goal at the end of the half there. So, I mean, there's some things that the Raiders had to overcome that were self-inflicted. But the bottom line is Antonio Pierce is a leader. He's a leader of men. He's got these guys believing in him and believing in the organization and believing in the spirit and the vision of what is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023. And so shout him out, and cannot give him enough props, cannot give him enough love for what this guy has done. I can't recall in my fan brain, and granted, I don't follow every team in the NFL as close as I do the Raiders, but outside of the recent history of Dan Campbell, I can't think of a time where one interim coach change has completely flipped the organization on its head. It's completely changed. I mean, it's one thing, we've seen plenty of interim head coaches with our Raiders, and we saw Bisaccia have good luck. I mean, have good fortune and end with a winning record and go to the playoffs. So we've seen positive things happen, but to have it do a complete 180 so fast, I don't know. Someone in the chat room, you tell me somewhere else where that's happened, because I can't. I've been watching this game a long time, and this league and this team a long time. I can't remember where it's been. It's not even that it's been so fast, Scott. It's been so definitive. It's a completely different football team than we were watching and rooting for 3 weeks ago. It's bananas. So I can't give that man enough love for his turnaround. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. And I think, too, that you looked at the numbers, and I had written it down. Of course, I didn't bring it into my studio here after watching the game. But the numbers, too, interim head coaches winning the game after they took over the first game and then losing the second game. Overwhelmingly, the statistics show that they don't win the second game. So he's bucked that trend already, which is great news for Raider Nation and for the team. And listen, there's a lot of stuff to get into tonight, Murph, because, look, you had a rookie quarterback making his third start. You had a rookie interim coach, basically. He's never been a head coach at the NFL level, in his second game. A new play caller in Hardegree, who is just doing his second game, as a guy who walked in one day and was told, hey, you're into the new offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of newness there, right? So there were mistakes. Of course there were mistakes. And so the Raiders, though, and I think this is the big point to make, and you touched on it a bit, which is overcoming adversity. You go back to the Gruden stuff and Bisaccia, that was a different type of adversity, right? It was all kinds of stuff. You had Henry Ruggs, you had all that. This is different. You had a leadership change again. You had all that stuff happen. And these guys have responded to it, because I think, and as somebody said it to me on X.com during the game, man, if this was 5 weeks ago, this team crumbles and doesn't turn it around and doesn't win this game. And I was like, I think that's a fair assessment, because there's a different mentality. There's a different vibe around this team, and you can sense it. You heard the broadcasters, as much as it's hard to listen to Chris Collinsworth all the time. It's something that you can sense and you can feel. And they talked about it, right? And to have Robert Spillane, and I said it, I was doubtful about Robert Spillane when they signed him. I was like, oh, okay, you need a linebacker. But this guy has really turned it up and become Johnny on the spot. 3 interceptions, the most interceptions by a Raiders linebacker since 2006 or 2016. So it's been a long time, right? We've talked about that position being a black hole for so long, but the fact that this team has persevered. I mean, even tonight, Josh Jacobs fumbles twice. One went out of bounds. They lose the second one. I know a lot of folks out there think that he might have been down, and he might have been down. Just the video didn't show it, so they couldn't overturn it. Excuse me. So you see them overcome that, though. You didn't see anybody's shoulders go down. You didn't see any body language that made it look like they were out. Now, again, 5-6 weeks ago, I think you do. I think we saw that, right? We saw Devontae Adams frustrated. We saw even Max Crosby frustrated. So you're right. This is a different feel. Where they can go, who knows? But if you're a Raiders fan, as you are, Murph, you have to feel really good about where it's going. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Pierce. We don't know any of that, and that's just fine, because for right now, he's getting the job done. His staff is getting the job done, and the players on the field, while not always pretty, are getting the job done as well.
Yeah, when they were talking about on the broadcast about, like, what changes. I mean, there's a lot of things that change culture, and there's a lot of things that can change the trajectory of an organization. But if you want to learn to be a winner, what's the best thing to do? Start winning, right? And so the Raiders have now won 2 games. Now, I thought the Giants game was a statement, in not because of the quality of opponent, but because of where the Raiders were, and then to decisively, win a game and put up 20 points on offense and do it in the first half. And there was a lot of things going on there with that win against the Giants. But it's one thing to do something once. You got to do it again. And the Raiders have now followed up in a absolutely grinded out another win at home in front of a seemingly, I don't know what the numbers are because I wasn't there, but it seemed to be a lot of Raider fans there. We didn't hear a lot of, and we've heard it on past broadcasts when visiting teams have been there, where they have, the noise level has been to the point to we're getting false starts in our home stadium. Anyways, we didn't hear any of that tonight. And so I think it was another statement in terms of, this is an elite defense. That freaking Jets defense is legit, man. They are legit at all 3 freaking layers of the defense. And they have some damn gamers, and Quinn Williams, my gosh. And so to have that defense, that elite, going up against an offensive line, sans Colton Miller, by the way, and for us to be able to grind it out and to win a game like that. Now, I know that the Jets offense isn't all that hot, and I know that, Zach Wilson wants a lot of throws back and all that, but that doesn't matter. It's like the progression has started. So I said all that to say this. Now we've strung together 2 wins. It's one thing to do it once. It's another thing to do it again. And then now we've got a tough game coming up against Miami. There are no such thing as moral victories, and it's only going to count if the Raiders can win. But we historically have played bad on the East Coast. No one knows that better than Antonio Pierce when his Giants used to whip the shit out of us when we would go to the Meadowlands. But so if we can get on a freaking plane, go to Miami, and play a highly competitive game against a freaking elite offense, Scott, I'm telling you, man. And then you got confidence going to Kansas City. This season is already turned around. We're already going to beat the Vegas odds, as you mentioned. The over/under, I think, was 6.5 on the season. I think the Raiders are going to easily eclipse that. I called the Raiders at 9-8 before the season started, and that was with Josh McFadden. So I think at this point, easily, I love it that I can say that too, because you can't, because you're a respected journalist. I'm just a fan, so I can call him names.
Respected by some.
But anyways, but point being though is that I think this is an important step in listen.
No question.
And look, we're going to be outmatched in a lot of areas playing the Dolphins. We're going to be outmatched in a lot of areas playing the Chiefs. But if they're riding this momentum wave now, and a lot of things can happen when you're riding emotion. Now it's not sustainable, and you can't live on that for the rest of your season. But that said, over these next couple of weeks, God forbid we knock off one of these teams. What's the narrative going to be around the league, man? It's insane. And I think that it's reasonable to think that, don't you?
Well, you could, yeah. And I look at it this way because, again, this was the first big test, I think, for obviously Aidan O'Connell, and we'll get into his performance in just a bit here, but the Raiders overall to play that defense. Now, the Raiders' offensive line did not overall have a good night. Okay, it just is what it is. They got blown back. They were playing Quinn Williams and Andre James. He's gonna hurt tomorrow because he got blown up. But you know what? It happens, right? That's the thing with the NFL. And sometimes people, we're getting but you're playing against a really good team. I know it's the Jets, and a lot of the attention, like you said, is put on their bad offense, except for Breece Hall. And Garrett Wilson. So you look at those guys, and they're both good players. Zach Wilson, of course, towards the end of the game, made an error. He threw the interception that Robert Spillane stepped in front of. Made a nice play. He read the quarterback. You see the replay from the rear side, from the quarterback side, and you saw him spying the quarterback the whole way, and he jumped the route and took the interception. So a great play by him, right? But you look at this and you say, the Raiders at 5 wins, what's it going to take to get in the playoffs? I know people are, what are you talking about playoffs? And look, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but at 5 wins now, you have to talk about it because they need, I think you're going to be in the playoff hunt at all, I think you're going to need 9 wins at least, right? And you said 9-8. And to do that, I think they're going to have to sneak one of these games. They're going to have to upset somebody.
Yeah.
Right? So they play the Chiefs twice. and they got to play the Dolphins. And the Dolphins can be tough, right? Because, look, the Raiders can't play offense like they did tonight. And, of course, the Dolphins' defense is getting better, too. So it's going to be a tough game. But, again, it's week by week, and the Raiders just have to break it down. And I think that one of the things they have to do, too, is make big plays when it matters the most. So you look at tonight, and I see a lot of folks in the chat saying, well, they're playing above their heads right now. That's fine. But what isn't playing above your head is at a time when New York is driving, okay, and the game is on the line, guess what happened? You made a play. They had no turnovers or takeaways, excuse me, before that. And I commented right before it happened that's what they needed, and they got it. So you can look at a team and say, well, they're not very good. I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers are not that good, and look where they sit, 6-3, right? It's sort of crazy. So anything can happen, yes. But I do think if you're a Raiders fan, you have to be excited at least that you have a coaching staff and you have players playing for that coaching staff, and you see improvement in areas. Does it always mean that every area is improved every game? No. Sometimes you fall back a step or whatever. And we saw that tonight a little bit. But overall, you got to be happy with where it is compared to where it was, especially, and you just keep building on it.
Absolutely. And I listen, when you look at the standings right now, and I'm just glancing down at them here, we've got the Steelers and Browns are both at 6-3. You got the Bills are playing tomorrow night or at 5-4, right? Or the Bills are playing tomorrow night. Is that correct? Or am I Monday Night Football?
That's correct.
Am I mistaken? So there you go. So anything can happen tomorrow night. Everybody root against the damn Bills. But so listen, there's potentially 3 teams in front of us for a wild card spot. Like, that's not that far considering where we were.
Correct.
And then now where we're at. And that whole idea of like playing over their head. Yeah. So do a lot of teams. So that some of you aren't old enough to remember the 1980 Raiders. Guess what? We were the first wild card team to ever win a Super Bowl. We were playing way over our heads at that point. It doesn't matter if you're playing over your head. All that matters is that you put W's in the freaking column. And so if they're going to, again, and while I will completely, concede the idea that emotion is fleeting. And I've said that from day one. Sure, that's not sustainable. You can't play like that week in and week out for freaking 20 weeks. I get it. But there is also a truth that if you're inspired by your leadership and the play and the success and your teammates and the vision and the goals and all those things and Raider Nation and the mystique and all the things that we love as Raider fans, if you're playing above your level because of all of those things, well, guess what? That could perpetuate a lot of good things. And so let's not dismiss the good. Let just rewind the clock back a few weeks, Raider Nation, and look at where we were at. I'm over here in the dumpiest of dumps, along with so many other fans, looking at how the season was going. And we were completely defeated to the point where we were already looking at like not only being the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NFL, but we were looking at what the Raiders were going to do next year in the draft. We're all talking about the coach getting fired. And people are talking about Mark Davis selling the team. Everybody's wanting a VP of football operations. Like, think of the disaster that we were a few weeks ago. And now it's turned into this in that short a period of time. Like, don't dismiss the success, man. Like, let's embrace it. And for what it is, and today and now back-to-back weeks, it's come out in big W's for the Raiders. And nothing better than, and listen, I'll say this too. If you're any kind of a Raider fan at all, well, I don't want to speak to anybody. I'm not here to judge your fandom. That's not my job. I'm not the fan police. But I'll just say this. If it's a prime time game, Sunday night football, and the Raiders gutted one out and had some exciting plays at the end, that freaking touchdown, I know we're going to get into the details of things, but that touchdown pass to Michael Mayer, God forbid we have a quarterback that puts it up for someone to just go up and get it in a place where only they can get it. What a freaking joy that was to see that play unfold and then close it out with a freaking defensive turnover. Like, come on. Like, it's exciting shit. I'm sorry. That's exciting stuff, man. Yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just a sucker for it, man, but I love it.
No. Listen, I agree with you. I think that you should be excited if you're a Raider fan. Look, again, it's a rookie quarterback, and we're going to do that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some of the numbers because you know me, I like the numbers. I like to talk about it a little bit and talk where the Raiders struggled, but also where they really succeeded. And you called out one of the plays I want to talk about as well because I think it's important when you're judging a rookie quarterback. You can't look at just the mistakes. You have to look at the mistakes, but you also have to look at what went right. And there was a lot that went right with Aidan O'Connell tonight. So we'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Original Podcast, the live post-game reaction show. Raiders 16-12 winners on Sunday Night Football over the Jets. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back here on Silver and Black today, the post-game edition. Raiders 16-12, or 16-12, not 16-12. They are 5-5, 500. Yes, I know. You want to be above 500, and the Raiders have a chance to do that now at 5-5. They are playing good football, not perfect football, and the offense struggled at times during the win. But, of course, the talk was about the rookie quarterback, Aidan O'Connell. If you look at Aidan O'Connell on the night, he was 16 of 27, 153 yards, the 1 touchdown, and the 1 interception. Josh Jacobs has his best game of the season, finally eclipsing the 100 yards. Remember, the other night he only got to 98 because he lost a couple yards on his last carry. 27, 116, an average of 4.3. That's the Josh Jacobs number that we've been used to the last 2 years, is that over 4 yards a carry average. And he had his longest run of the season, too, with 40 yards in the game as well. So the Raiders statistically did really well if you look at it. Offense did struggle, but again, playing such a good defense, and anyone who studied the game on the week leading up to it knew that it would be a low-scoring game. That's why the over-under on the game at the sports books was 35. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of these low unders this year in the NFL as defenses have caught up to many of these offenses. But Aidan O'Connell, early on, comes out, first drive looks pretty good and stalls, and then comes out, throws the bad pick. And it was a bad pick. He made a poor choice. You're going to see that with rookie quarterbacks. The question is, how do they bounce back? And then do they do it again, right? Because doing it again, turning the ball over multiple times is what gets you in trouble. Now, the Raiders had the 2 turnovers on the night with Josh Jacobs with that late fumble, which I know most people believe was not a fumble, and it probably wasn't, but there was no video to overturn the call on the field, so it stuck as a fumble. But Aidan O'Connell, the thing that I focus in on is the decision-making, number one. He made one bad decision. He had a couple other passes. He got nervous, threw the ball short a couple times, just typical rookie stuff. Even Chris Collinsworth talked about it. Say, hey, that's a young quarterback. That's what they do. Like, doesn't matter how good they are, you're going to see that happen. But when it came to crunch time, and this is what's so encouraging about this kid, and again, I'm not saying that depending where the Raiders finish, that they don't go get another quarterback next year. I think you get as many quarterbacks as you can until you find the right guy. But you have to like what this kid does, because he takes a bad decision, he learns from it, comes back out, and you can see him doing well. And the pass, he had a couple really nice passes tonight, but the pass to Michael Mayer in the end zone, I mean, you talk about a great catch, yes, but it was spot on. There was no one else was going to get to the ball. That's what you have to do as a quarterback. You have to throw the ball to where your guy's going to get it. If he doesn't get it, it goes out of bounds. No harm, no foul. You go to the next down. And I saw some people who were I think nervous about him early on, but you're gonna be on a roller coaster ride with a rookie quarterback, Murf. You just gonna. But you have to look at his ability and his overall work and say, okay, what else did he do? What else was he able to do? He got the ball out of his hand faster in the second half, so he made adjustments in the second half, which helped this Raiders team, I think, move the ball a little better. Now, they stalled a lot too. Don't get me wrong. They got to change that. Some of that was on the coaching staff. You heard Antonio Pierce, Murf, come out after halftime to do his interview with Melissa Stark, and he said, we got to run the ball, man. We got to run the damn ball. He said, that's what we do. That's how we have to do it, and so that's what we're going to do. And they did in the second half too. So you have to like the fact too that the coach wasn't going to come out and blame the quarterback. He wasn't going to talk about, oh, we got to protect the ball better, even though they should have. He built that offense around the quarterback. He was putting a lot of pressure on Aidan O'Connell in the first half, not making excuses, but he was. He's putting him in tough situations where he had to throw the ball because they weren't running it and they weren't getting good yardage on first and second down. So it set up a lot of third and longs. Now they come out, they change the tact in the second half, and Aidan O'Connell did fine. He's not going to throw for 450 yards. I get that. But I like what I saw tonight, Murph. It gave me a lot of faith that he's going to grow over the course of this year. And these next 2 tough games, he's going to learn a lot from. And so you just got to have to ride with him when it comes to the ups and downs.
Yeah, that's all you can do with a rookie quarterback. And even one like C.J. Stroud, who's having an absolute baller rookie year, made some mistakes today.
Yes.
But ultimately, you're not defined by the mistakes that you make. You're defined by what you do in response to them. I tell my kids that all the time. We're all going to make mistakes, but what do you do as a follow-up to that? That's what's going to define your character, or in this case, your playing career, your on-field performance. What are you going to do after that? And so then here comes Aidan O'Connell, turns right around and has some incredible throws like the one that you mentioned. And also there was one to Devontae, and I can't remember the exact scenario of it, but it almost seemed like he overthrew him a little bit.
Yeah.
But hey, what a concept that one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in football will go out there and get it. And so, those are the ideas that have been missing from this Raiders team, frankly, for the past couple of years now, maybe even longer than that, in terms of where is giving trust in your receivers, whether that be tight ends or wide receivers, to go and make a play on the football. We were kind of playing scared. We were kind of taking the safe things. And when you're constantly playing safe, well, when you play not to lose, guess what happens, right? You just freaking lose. So, or you're not nearly as successful. So that idea that he's trusting those playmakers to go up and make plays, I thought was very, very strong. And to go to your comments about Antonio Pierce there at halftime, one of the things that I love about all of his comments, but in those ones at halftime in particular, he's specific. And that's something that we were missing greatly when Josh McDaniels was at the helm, is that it was all about, well, we need to execute better. We need to execute. It was very broad, very general statements, nothing specific. There was no personal ownership of it. I love it. Like he said something very specific, but yet didn't call anybody out at the same time, because you can do it and not be a jerk about it. But you can say, hey, look, man, hey, Bo, let's run the football a little bit more. We got the league leading rusher back here. Let's freaking get this guy going. And they sure did, because going into that halftime, I mentioned just briefly there, some of the play calling on third down when you're in field goal range, and like we're lining up like 4 and 5 wide. Like, what are we doing? Like, just at least have Josh back there as a threat. Like, so I didn't agree with that from some of those play calls that Bo Hard was coming up with. And I don't think Antonio Pierce agreed with it either. So guess what? They changed. And that 4th down call, like, I got to respect the freaking cojones on Antonio Pierce. Handing that thing off to DeAndre Carter like that.
It was a beautiful play. The design of that play was gorgeous.
It was designed well. It was executed well. You could tell that thing was in their freaking bag, and they waited to pull that club out. And I mean, but awesome. Like, we hadn't seen that level of creativity at all. And so, I mean, well, I don't want to say it all, but very rarely. And so, man, just what an amazing job by those guys. And again, I can't compliment Aidan O'Connell enough. And yeah, Raider Nation, just hang in there, man. It's a 4th round rookie, but you know what? That 4th round rookie, I went to the Music City Bowl right down the road here at Nissan Stadium and watched him put up 500 yards against UT, and scored like 58 points or whatever the hell they did. Aidan O'Connell can sling it, man. And once he gets caught up to the speed of the NFL, and I think even Collinsworth mentioned that, or even Tirico or whoever it was, that you typically in college, you have a 3-second rule when you drop back. Now in the NFL, Aidan O'Connell, you got about 2.2 seconds before you're going to start feeling pressure, especially when you're going against an elite defense like the Jets. He'll catch up. It just takes time. Like the idea that, like, you know, we're in such a, and I know and I understand that we expect guys that are drafted to come in and make immediate impacts, but a 4th round quarterback shouldn't have that level of expectation that he's going to come in and going to light it up and be rookie of the year. Like, we got to just ride with them and trust and hope that the surrounding pieces and the coaching staff is going to set him up to be as successful as he possibly can, and that the team can just keep us close. He's proven that. If we can keep it close, he can get us in the dang end zone and win a football game. Like, I don't know what, I mean, listen, this defense is better than, or as good as, at a minimum, of anybody else we're going to play all year long. So if we can just keep a game close, we can beat the damn Chiefs. We can beat the Dolphins.
And that's what's so impressive about him as a quarterback. Not so much yet that he's putting up big numbers or any of that jazz, but he remains calm. Listen, he is he's cool. Now he's got some footwork issues to deal with. If you watch the tape, if you go back and watch the game, you'll see that a lot of the times when he has issues is when his feet are positioned wrong, or he releases the ball too late or off his back foot. So he's got those mechanical, but those are easy to fix, right? You continue to work on those, and he will. The thing about it though is, and this is what I said a few weeks back, even when he started the Charger game and they lost, which was he just moves that team. Now I know they had some trouble against this defense moving the ball tonight at times, but again, when it matters most, he moves the ball. He, at least to your point, Murph, puts them in a position to where things can happen. They don't always happen, and sometimes they got to punt the ball or whatever, but he's at least moving the ball. We didn't see that from any other Raiders